Have you ever worked quietly, faithfully, giving your best day after day and still felt invisible? Have you ever watched others move ahead, not because they worked harder, but because somehow they were noticed more, and deep down? Have you ever wondered whether effort alone is truly enough? Life has a gentle way of teaching us lessons we don't expect. Sometimes the lesson is not about working more, not about pushing harder, but about understanding something far more subtle and far more important. It is about knowing your worth without making yourself easy to replace. Let me share a story with you. In a busy manufacturing town in the Midwest, there once worked a young technician named Daniel Brooks. Daniel was known for one thing above all else: quiet dedication. He arrived early, he left late, he spoke little, and he focused on his work with the kind of discipline most people only talk about. When Daniel first joined the factory, he was assigned under the guidance of an older craftsman named Mr. Howard. Mr. Howard had worked there for decades. His hands were steady, his eyes were calm, and though he rarely raised his voice, everyone respected him. On Daniel's first week, Mr. Howard gave him a piece of advice that Daniel would never forget. "Listen carefully," the old man said gently. "If you want to succeed here, learn to work with full focus, speak less, improve your skills every single day. Make yourself so capable that no one can easily replace you." Daniel took those words deeply to heart. From that day forward, he worked with almost relentless discipline. While others chatted during breaks, Daniel studied machine manuals. While others rushed through tasks, Daniel checked every detail twice. While others went home on time, Daniel often stayed a little longer. Year after year, he improved. His hands became faster, his solutions became sharper. His reputation quietly grew inside the factory walls, and after nearly 10 years, something significant happened. Mr. Howard retired. When the announcement came, many workers wondered who would fill the empty space left behind, but the answer became clear very quickly. Daniel Brooks was promoted to take Mr. Howard's position. It was a proud moment. Daniel felt a quiet satisfaction in his chest, not loud, not boastful, just steady and warm, like a small flame finally being seen. For a while, everything seemed to move in the right direction. Daniel continued working the same way he always had, focused, silent, dependable. But slowly, something began to trouble him. He noticed that some of his co-workers, people with less experience and clearly less skill, were receiving raises. Some were even promoted. At first, Daniel ignored it. He told himself to stay patient. He told himself that good work always speaks for itself. But as months passed, the uneasy feeling grew heavier. One evening, after a long shift, Daniel finally decided to visit Mr. Howard, who was now enjoying a quiet retirement. The old craftsman welcomed him warmly, but as soon as Daniel sat down, Mr. Howard noticed the tension in the young man's face. "What's weighing on your mind?" the old man asked gently. Daniel hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "I followed everything you taught me," he said slowly. "I work with full focus. I keep improving my skills. I know, honestly, there's no one in the factory who handles the machines as well as I do." He paused, his voice tightening slightly. "But people with half my ability are getting promoted. Their pay keeps rising. Mine barely moves." Mr. Howard studied him quietly. Then he asked one simple question. "Tell me honestly, Daniel, do you believe you are truly important to that factory?" Daniel straightened in his seat. "Yes," he said firmly. "I'm certain of it." The old man nodded slowly, as if thinking through something carefully. After a long pause, he said, "Then try something. Tomorrow, take the day off. Give them a small excuse. Tell them you need rest." Daniel blinked in surprise. It was not the kind of advice he expected, but he respected Mr. Howard deeply. So the next morning, Daniel applied for leave. For the first time in years, he did not walk through the factory doors. Instead, he stayed home, quietly waiting. When Daniel returned the following day, something immediately felt different. Within an hour, his manager called him into the office. The manager's tone was unusually serious. "Daniel," he said, "yesterday was difficult." Daniel remained silent. "The machines you normally handle caused repeated delays," the manager continued. "Several teams struggled to keep things running smoothly." He leaned back in his chair. "It became very clear just how much we rely on your expertise." Daniel felt something warm rise in his chest. Recognition. Finally, the manager smiled slightly. "We've decided to promote you to senior technician," he said, "and we're adjusting your salary accordingly." Daniel left the office that day feeling lighter than he had in months. In his mind, the lesson seemed obvious. Sometimes, people only notice your value when you step away. From that point on, whenever Daniel felt overlooked, he remembered Mr. Howard's advice, and quietly, he began repeating the same strategy. Every few weeks, he would take a day off. At first, the pattern seemed to work. Supervisors became more attentive. Small benefits followed. Daniel grew more confident that he had finally discovered the hidden key to being valued. Months passed this way, but life, as it often does, was preparing a deeper lesson. One Monday morning, Daniel arrived at the factory gates, expecting another ordinary day, but something was wrong. The security guard looked uncomfortable. "Daniel," he said quietly, "you need to speak with management." A cold feeling spread through Daniel's chest. Inside the office, the news came quickly and without softness. The company had decided to terminate his position, effective immediately. For a long moment, Daniel could not even process the words. Terminate? Him? The most skilled technician in the building, hurt, confused, and deeply shaken. Daniel left the factory in silence. By that afternoon, he was already on his way to see Mr. Howard again. This time there was no calm patience in his voice, only wounded disbelief. "I did exactly what you told me," Daniel said, struggling to stay composed. "I proved my importance. I showed them they needed me." Mr. Howard listened carefully. Then, very slowly, he shook his head. "My boy," the old craftsman said gently, "you learned only half the lesson." Daniel froze. "Half," he whispered. Mr. Howard's eyes were kind, but serious. "You understood the first part," he said. "Yes. When a lamp burns constantly, people may forget to notice it. But when it suddenly goes out, everyone looks." Daniel's jaw tightened. "That's exactly what happened," he said. Mr. Howard nodded slowly. "But you rushed to apply that idea before listening to the second part." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "What second part?" he asked. The old man's voice grew softer, but more powerful. "If a lamp keeps going out again and again, what do people eventually do?" Daniel's breath caught. Mr. Howard continued gently. "They stop trusting the lamp." Silence filled the room. "And sooner or later," the old craftsman said, "they replace it with one that stays on." The words landed heavily. For the first time, Daniel's confidence cracked. Mr. Howard leaned forward slightly. "Reliability," he said quietly, "is part of your value. When people cannot depend on you, your skill alone is no longer enough." Daniel sat very still. The truth was uncomfortable, but it was also unmistakably clear. The old man placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "In life," he said, "never make the mistake of trying to prove your importance by becoming unpredictable. True worth is not shown by disappearing, but by being consistently excellent. and wisely visible. Daniel lowered his eyes. For the first time in months, he realized where he had gone wrong. He had worked hard, he had become skilled. But somewhere along the way, he had confused attention with trust. And in doing so, he had slowly made himself replaceable. Mr. Howard's voice softened once more. "Balance, Daniel," he said. "That is the real secret. Work with dedication, yes. Let your value be seen, yes. But never forget, the people who succeed for the long run are the ones others can rely on, without hesitation." Outside the window, the afternoon light was beginning to fade. Daniel sat quietly, absorbing every word. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons in life arrive only after something has been lost. And perhaps, that is why we remember them so deeply. In our own lives, we often assume that effort alone guarantees recognition. We believe that if we keep our heads down and simply work harder, eventually everything will fall into place. But life is rarely that simple. People must be able to see your value. They must be able to trust your presence. And most importantly, they must know you are steady, not just brilliant, not just hardworking, but dependable. So if you are someone who works quietly, faithfully, day after day, let this story stay gently in your mind. Do your work with pride. Let your value be known with wisdom. And above all, never make yourself easy to replace. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe for more meaningful life lessons. Thank you for spending this time here. Wishing you peace, clarity, and steady success in all that you do.